Like 6.
I love you so much. I was actually joking, but totally gonna call me now.
Yeah, you're totally gonna do it. They have it like that. And how much are you? You want this full or?
Good, how are you?
Dr. Cole. Excellent, good job. Dr. Tanya.
Oh my God, you're literally my favorite.
It's like regular, it's like, no. I was embarrassed. Highly recommend.
I'm like, hello. I'll buy my own candy.
Invite me over.
Oh,
Page 3 is all yours. It's actually page 3 and 4.
Yeah.
We reserved it out with your kids.
It's gotta be for power now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clint, sir? Yes, it's good to do that.
I remember this.
Yes, it is.
So congratulations. Thank you.
All right, good job. Hi, Bush, good to see you. How are you? Nice job on your articles.
Oh, thank you.
Hey, you got Sun Journal today, huh?
Oh, did I?
Yeah, front page of the Regions. I split the end over.
Oh, really? Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
Never need anything.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I was
So anyway, I mean, it's working. All this is.
Takes more than that, guys. So Jim will take this.
All right, good evening, everyone. Join for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is the action on the minutes from September 26th. Would anybody make a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes from September 26th? Seeing none, all in favor? All right, and we'll jump into citizens' comments. Any citizens here tonight that would like to speak?
I actually would like to speak. My name is Destiny, for those who don't know me. I am a mom of a student at the Woodstock Elementary School. I'm also the secretary of the PTA. I am here today to talk to you guys about something that I saw this morning in the local news that concerns me. I'm not sure if everyone on our board has seen it yet today. I know that it plans to run again tonight. It was a local parent of some students in our district who was talking about bullying and how her children are facing some extreme issues in the school system. She has one child who is considering pulling and being homeschooled, and one child who is, I believe she said, trying to make it through. I do not know this parent on a personal level. It just spoke to me personally. As a parent whose child will be moving up to the 6th grade next year, I have been very concerned. I spoke to over 20 parents today who are concerned with the bullying that's going on in our district, in all 3 schools, not just Hellstar. This isn't an attack on the administration. I think our administration's great. I was super thrilled when I came back to the district as a parent, because I originally was a student here who left due to bullying to graduate from Oxford Hills. So as I came back as a parent and realized who our administration was now, I was really thrilled, but now I'm really sad. I'm really sad to see that things haven't changed. I understand that bullying is an issue that's not just happening here in our district, that it's happening everywhere. But this article said that 80% of schools are reporting no bullying. I mean, everyone here can't tell me that they don't believe that. I mean, come on now. Kids are mean. Parents are mean. Politicians are mean. Everyone is mean. And it turns into our kids not sure what to do with it. And so in turn they end up picking on each other. And fine, it might not be the definition of bullying, but when every day your student or your kid is complaining about the same things they're being picked on, for their size, for the way their hair looks, for the way their skin color is, for who they like or don't like, for how they're able to play sports or unable to play sports. We now have a parent that's gone to a news outlet, and last month we had a parent at CPS who went to the Team Bethel page. I'm not sure any of you saw that one, but this parent went on to detail explicit, what I would call sexual harassment happening to her elementary school student at CPS. She was so desperate that she was willing to write some really awful things about a child online, which I'm not saying was right, but as a parent sometimes we get desperate for our kids, right? And so she feels, I think now that things have happened to protect her kid, but it shouldn't have come to that. It shouldn't have come to her reaching out online for help. As a district, we have to do better. I think as a small district, being as amazing as we are, we could start setting a precedent. We could start talking about it more. We could make sure that our next superintendent wants to talk about it all the time. Wants to talk about the fact that kids are mean sometimes and that things are happening. We need to get more parents involved. We need to feel as an administration like we can contact parents without consequence. We need to feel like these kids that are constantly doing harm have some repercussion for it, so the kids that are doing good can continue to flourish into life and not live with trauma from their childhood, such as I do and did. So I just wanted to make you guys aware, before we continue searching for the next superintendent, we need to find somebody who's transparent, somebody who wants to talk about it, even though it's, you know, kind of uncomfortable. So that's just really what I wanted to say, and I hope everyone, you know, kind of takes that to heart, because when it's our own kid, you know, it does make a difference, and it won't be my kid next year. I gotta make sure of that, so, thank you.
Thank you. Any other citizens' comments? Seeing none, we'll move to board member comments. Maggie?
Thank you. Thank you, Destiny. I appreciate that. It was really, really well said, well spoken. I appreciate being here tonight and saying. I also want to thank Mr. Penny for being willing to speak to the news outlet. Not every principal would be willing to have the courage and to be able to have that conversation on TV in that way. And so I just want to publicly say thank you for stepping up and for representing us.
David?
I think bullying is number one enemy in our schools. I think this needs to be immediately looked into and talked about with the teachers. Gathered some information, and then also have a meeting with the kids and talk to them about it and how serious it is and how it's not a place in school for bullying. I've been bullied when I was a kid. I know how that feels. That is my number one priority, is to watch out for this happening in our schools. And I think that we need to nip this in the bud immediately and look into this.
You? Scott?
Different subject. Which member's absent tonight? Board member?
Meredith. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other board member comments?
I just want to say, when I was on the school board at Merrimack Valley in New Hampshire, we implemented a bullying policy probably a decade ago. And we received, as a board, we received a monthly report of complaints, confirmed bullying things, and it was substantial. I mean, on an annual basis, we had like 1,000 complaints, and our school district was substantially bigger than here, but I can't believe people are any different anymore.
Any other board member comments? Seeing none, we'll go to the chairman's report. I'll just add, Destiny, thank you for coming in, and sounds like there's definitely some interest in digging into this deeper, so.
Yeah, just conversation. Conversation's important.
And also on a brighter note, I wanted to mention, a couple weeks ago at the chamber dinner, our superintendent got nominated and won the Educator of the Year for 2022. So I wanted to publicly congratulate David on that. From what I know of the award, members of the community are welcome to nominate teachers and administrators, and somebody nominated David and they selected him, so again, congratulations, and well deserved for sure. Committee and board meetings, our next meeting is December 19th at 6:30 here. The next 4 meetings are tentatively set to be determined by the chairs of those committees or solidified by the chairs later on, but as of now, the Education Committee is set to meet Thursday, November 17th at 2:45. Is that still?
We were going to suggest that maybe because of the short notice between the board meeting and the subcommittee meetings, that we move this back to next Thursday, Thanksgiving, so if you could all bring pies. We're looking at December 1st, if that would work for the committees. That gives, I know we have at least one person who's traveling this week, and I know other people are feeling like they're backed up with meetings. So that'll still give us 2 weeks prior to the next board meeting, so if that works for folks, I would say all 3 of those meetings could be rescheduled for December 1st. Same time, same place. That works.
All right, let's do that. Let's go ahead and say the Education Committee will meet those are still Thursdays. Thursday, December 1st at 2:45. Finance Committee, Thursday, December 1st at 4:15. And the Facilities Committee, Thursday, December 1st at 5:30. Next Region 9 board meeting is Wednesday, December 7th at 6 p.m. at the Region 9 school. And from there, we'll go to committee reports. Start with Stephanie and the Education Committee.
Yeah, we had a great meeting, our first meeting. We chose education chair and vice chair. I'll be chairing and Cheryl's going to vice chair. And we had some hangover from last time. We have a couple of programs, some staff from the TFA coming to present to the board and let us know about that program and what they're doing and some changes that they've made. And we all just brought ideas for what we wanted to follow through with this year and learn more about.
Thank you. And Marcy, the Facilities Committee?
Yes, we have met. We also voted on chair and vice chair, because I do recommend not coming to a meeting late or you will be voted as chair. So I will be chair and also late. And vice chair was,
I think.
right, yes, for me, that's correct. We just reviewed some policies. We looked at the snow plowing bid, which will come up later in the meeting tonight. And just some projects that we had worked on a little bit last year and want to move forward with, transportation rides, that sort of thing, and kind of see where we're at, come back together, and see what we can come up with.
Thank you. And the Finance Committee is not met yet, I don't believe. Go to Region 9, Norm Quinn.
Thank you. Well, not a great deal to report from Region 9, except that, of course, the big news is that the referendum question passed on November 8th, which was it's very hard. I expected it would pass. I saw no reason why it shouldn't pass, but the fact that it passed by such a wide margin, almost 10-1, was heartwarming indeed. So, and I think, and I don't have all the numbers, but I think it passed in basically in every town that voted. So that was good as well, all 16 towns. The appeal period is passed, so we are past the conditional contract thing with the state and are moving ahead to begin to finalize things. Somebody's going to say to me, well, what does this look like? And the answer is, well, we don't know what it looks like yet because no design work has been done. None of that has been done. We couldn't do any of that until we got offered the grant and a successful vote. So it all happened rather quickly. It was almost putting the cart before the horse. We didn't know if we were going to be offered any grant money or not. The time frame on putting these grant requests together was quite short. And we went ahead and put our referendum out for the election day, knowing that if we did it some other day, it'd be much more expensive. And we wanted to get a lot of folks to respond. So we were very fortunate. Out of the 15 million something, we were awarded 5.48 million, and all three of our grant requests were funded. So it's very exciting for us. Now we've got a lot of work to do. So you'll be getting more reports later. But thanks for the support, everyone. And if you'll excuse me, I have another commitment at 7:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Going to Florida? Are you heading to Florida right now?
Not tonight, no.
All right, thank you. And the Superintendent Search Committee update will come later in the meeting. I'll pass it off to David for the Superintendent's report.
Thank you. Since our last meeting, we've had some appointments. Heidi Plans, EdTech 1, THS Special Education, and Ann Speth, EdTech 3, THS Special Education. Schedule B appointments, Telstar High School Boys Basketball Coach Ryan Kimball, THS Head Girls Basketball Coach Alec Newell, THS Nordic Ski Coach Kristen Powell, TMS Head Boys Basketball Coach Tim O'Connor, TMS Head Girls Basketball Coach Natasha Howard, TMS Assistant Boys Basketball Coach Steve Pelletier, TMS Assistant Girls Basketball Coach David Berry, TMS Nordic Ski Coach Jen Aldridge, and TMS Alpine Ski Coach Mark Duchart. Telstar High School FBLA co-advisors, Danielle Johansson, with Melissa Poston, previously approved. They're splitting that stipend. And then John Firm's co-advisors, Lindsay Smith and Justin Boddenson. You might remember both of those folks spoke at the last meeting with the North Star program. So those are the appointments since the last meeting. We did receive a resignation from Rebecca Hatstadt, Telstar custodian, and that position is in the process of being advertised and hopefully filled pretty soon. And we will have a few more agenda items tonight with some additional recommendations for positions. I just wanted to echo what Norm said about the approval for the Region 9 referendum vote. That did go through very overwhelmingly, and there'll be more information on that to come. We will be meeting frequently with the director of Region 9 to make sure we are aware of the steps, and we'll bring that information back to you as well. We did not receive any bids on the Telstar portable classroom or the greenhouse. Good news is that the grant has been extended a little bit, so we have a little bit more lead time. We can repost this and maybe have a later date for moving the portable in the greenhouse if someone is interested in it. We did have a minimum bid of $15,000 on the portable. That seemed to be a realistic low bid, but like I said, we didn't get any takers, so we'll try it again. Let's see. I did want to thank Destiny as well, and just wanted folks to know that we do have a very specific process, and we're going to bring it to the board, kind of explain what we do. So you are aware of the procedures that are followed in the event that there is a concern brought forward with bullying. I think there's a lot of work that is done. Not to say we can't do better. I think we can always do better. And we'll be talking about that a little bit tomorrow at the principals meeting. But I think, too, helping people understand the process is really important, and also helping people understand what we need to get in order to be able to move forward. I want to thank Mark, too, for sitting in on that, and I know Lindsay and John were also there to support him with that as well. The interview was, what, over half an hour long, so it's unfortunate they can't show the whole thing. But you know, Destiny said it well. I mean, if you look at the world, you know, the world's a crazy place right now, and kids sometimes bring what they learn to school with them, and it's up to us to make sure we police it, do the best we can with it. I think we are. I think we can do better. So we'll bring you some information about that. I like your idea about, Mark, about just, you know, bringing back periodic updates about where things stand. And I think one thing that Mark said in his interview that's really important for people to know is that if there's 0 cases reported, that doesn't mean that there were 0 cases, excuse me, if there were 0 cases reported to the state, it doesn't mean that there weren't a lot of investigations that were done on cases that were brought forward. But we need to explain how that happens. We want people to better understand it so we can all kind of be on the same page with that. And we need to also, I think, make sure that our folks in the classrooms and in the, you know, throughout the district know what to look for in the event of bullying. And so, like I said, we'll continue to work on that. We'll continue to try to make sure that more people are aware of it and informed about it, and we'll bring something back to you as well about that. So thank you. I'm not going to tell anybody. I don't think it's an issue. I think it's an issue that we just need to continue to monitor and try to figure out how to do better with. So I would like to just report out that I did attend the MSMA conference at the end of October, and I would really encourage folks, if you haven't attended that before, it's really great to go to. I sat in on a lot of the law clinics, just to make sure that we were up to speed with what was going on out there, but there are hundreds, well, maybe not hundreds, but at least 100 different workshop sessions that you can choose from, and plus there is a wide exhibitor area too, so you can learn more about different programs that are being offered. One of the highlights of that was a presentation that was made, and the person that happened to receive this award was not able to be present at that meeting. So I'd like to ask Cheryl Morgan if she would come up here for a moment, please. You will require one song and one dance. But Mr. Whitney and I nominated Cheryl for this award, and this is presented by MSMA. And some of you may know that this award is based on a minimum of 12 years service on the school board. Cheryl has been on the school board for 13 years this time, and actually happened to be a member of the board back when I was hired way back in 1984.
Yeah, given my age.
So yeah, she was only 10 years old then, very young. But she has actually served for 2 different stints on the board. The first one was from 1977 to 1987. Decided to take a little bit of a break, and then she came back and has been a member for the last 13 years. And Really appreciate all you've done, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you take a break, we expect you to come back for at least 15 years.
With my great-grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren, that's right, that's right. That concludes the superintendent's report for tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. No old business. New business, I'll actually let you give that introduction.
So folks, as you know, part of our ESER 3,
Take questions after the superintendent's report?
not typically,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk to you, or if Danny wants to entertain a question, it's up to him.
Usually if it's specifically related to the report, sure.
Sure.
It is, yeah. Okay. What's the history of the greenhouse?
So, I don't know the full history of it going back, but it was created back, I think, during the Gut Farms era, when we were looking at, we did lots of like fruit and vegetables that were grown here, overseen by the Gut Farms project. And it's the one, it's a small one out here. It's got some solar panels on it. You've probably seen it. Built on a slab. So, I mean, I think part of the challenge in it is I'm not sure how easily it could be moved. It might have to be disassembled and taken that way. Interestingly, we have had some interest expressed by some student groups about the possibility, since this became available as surplus, about possibly taking it and repurposing it. I don't know if any more has come out of that. Mr. Kenny was approached by one group not too long ago, but I don't know if anything else has happened with it.
Still waiting for a viable plan.
So that's pretty much it. So, as you know, you approved the submission of the ESER 3 federal grant related to the COVID funding. Part of that, the biggest part of that, was an air quality project that saw an air conditioning portion of the Crescent Park School, with the purpose of providing summer instruction in that facility. Currently, as you're aware, we have Moose Kids runs the summer program there on the first floor, and ideally it would be great if we could have a space where we can provide other summer school activities throughout the district that have them be in an air-conditioned portion of the district. We had some school districts at the beginning of the school year in the state that actually closed because of heat. And as I think we all know, we're experiencing warmer weather in June, warmer weather in September. So part of this project was a proposal that was approved by the state to move forward with a project at Crescent Park, which would be the new wing, first and second floor of the new wing. Say new wing, it was 1994. So it wasn't that new, I guess. But we have Honeywell coming in and doing that project. They did an engineering study on that, came up with an estimate, which we used to prepare our initial proposal to the state, which was now probably over a year ago when that information was all put together. And like everything else, cost of everything has gone up. So one of the things that you'll see later in the agenda is a request for a short-term loan, which I'll speak about maybe at that point. But I've invited Jim Lucy from Honeywell to come and speak to you a little bit tonight about the project and give you a little bit of background on that, maybe some details around what we need to do next in order to move forward. So Jim, welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah, as I get older, I'm sure others can relate, you have reminders of how time fast goes by fast. And my drive up here, I was thinking it was 27 years ago was my first time in front of this board. So,
Was Cheryl here then?
I was 1995 there, so it sounds like she was off then, but yeah. So it's nice to always be back in front of the board and to meet with you. As David said, we've had an extensive relationship over the years with the school district, and as you receive some of the ESSER money, we work with David to collaboratively develop some budgeting and kind of lead to the discussion tonight. And that was really focused around air conditioning. We evaluated many different ways, many different design solutions in Crescent Park to really try to maximize the money you have available. The area that we focused on was, as David noted, the newer section, the two-story section, kind of as you walk into the building. There's 18 classrooms that are served by that area, and you have an existing on the second floor heating and ventilation unit that does just that in those spaces. So it's currently zoned to provide heating and ventilation to each one of those classrooms, corridors, etc. The proposal, although it sounds simple, becomes complicated. So this proposal and the price associated includes the construction management, design, commissioning of the said project. The general scope is to upgrade that existing heating and ventilation unit to add air conditioning. So that involves several modifications and additions to that site. So we have to enable that in the back of the building, we would put a condensing unit to enable the air conditioning. There we would do some electrical upgrades, and we'd wire up into the back where that existing heating and ventilation unit resides. We would upgrade the modification of some ductwork up there and add in a cooling coil. And then we'd have to rezone, because we're adding cooling, we'd have to rezone, and we're putting in 20 variable air volume systems, which is really a nice system that allows you to basically have room-to-room control for heating, ventilation, and cooling in this case. So there's a lot of zoning and control upgrades associated with that. In addition to that, we've got to remove drop ceilings, and in the second floor is actually some sheetrock area in the area we've got to remove to access the existing ductwork, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate. When you're air conditioning something, it gets sweat, so we've got to pull the ductwork down, unfortunately, to get around and insulate the circumference of that, and we've got to put everything back up in its place. So there's a fair amount to do associated with this scope. Unfortunately, the initial budgeting, which honestly is consistent with many, many projects we're doing in the state and in New England I'm associated with, the prices have just skyrocketed. And so the initial budget was around $800,000-900,000 range. That was kind of the original design iteration. This one has come in at about just under $1,150,000. That would be a firm fixed price to you guys that would essentially contract with us, and there wouldn't be any change orders associated with the scope of work. So everything is inclusive in that, but that's really just where things have evolved. We're looking to be in front of you tonight to try to get your approval and to accelerate our ability to construct it. There's long lead times associated with this, so we would try to jump on in the ordering and get the construction done as soon as possible so you can start to reap the benefit of these site improvements. So that's the basic scope of work, and I'm happy to address any questions you might have in this discussion or later as you.
If I could, just Jim, to build on something you said, one of the things that we really like about the idea of having the individual classroom controls is that if we are using, let's say, the second floor for 2 or 3 classes for, some kind of summer work with middle school kids, let's say, we can just set it so that those 2 or 3 classrooms are being cooled. You don't have to cool the whole second floor. So from an energy perspective, it's going to give us an opportunity to save a little bit of energy usage as well.
Yeah, and all of that would be tied in. You have a computerized control system throughout the district that controls a lot of your spaces in all of your buildings, and that would all be tied into that system. So your facilities management staff or whoever's designated could control that by changing the set point up or down from anywhere.
So the project hasn't changed. It's just the cost of all the materials and the fact that it's labor intensive. I will tell you that back when we were looking at the Crescent Park School design, the addition, at the time, the building principal who was there lobbied heavily to have the ductwork insulated at that point in time, but it was unsuccessful in that event.
Yes.
What would be the approximate time frame for completion, and also what do you envision for disruptions to classrooms during the construction?
Yeah, I think we would be targeting this summer, to be honest with you, to avoid disruptions. I know it's not optimal with the intent of this project to get air conditioning, but I think my assumption is that's probably when lead times would get us to, in part. And then that would be the best time to do it. There's a fair amount of work with just removing the ceilings and modifying the ductwork. If we can do it sooner, then we'd certainly work through David at your discretion to try to take advantage of, February, April breaks and so on. But I think a realistic expectation would be this summer.
And we've talked about the hope that we would be up and ready to go by the fall of next year.
Yeah. Yes.
What happens if things continue to increase in prices?
We have fixed pricing from contractors right now, and
Okay.
so if we can get into contract between now and middle of December, early December, then we're good. I know David's been working with your attorney and stuff for the motion and so on, and so we have firm pricing locked in for, I'd say, 30 days. And just one other kind of tough thing is we've worked with an engineer of record on most projects we've done in Maine and New Hampshire. His name's Ken Whitney, and Ken went to elementary school at Crescent Park. So it's just kind of from an educational standpoint, he's a terrific engineer that we work with out of he's up in the Wyndham area, I believe. Yeah, he's a Crescent Park grad, so he was pretty happy to come back and have a chance to walk through the old stomping grounds.
No relation, right? Any other questions for Jim? I just want to say, we've worked on a lot of projects with Honeywell. We've always been very satisfied with the quality of the work. They maintain our buildings in the event that anything happens to our mechanical systems. And, if they say they can get it done by the fall of 2023, then I have every belief that they will. So,
Your subs, are they, you must have an ongoing relation with them. I suspect if you've got a lot of school systems as clients, nobody wants the work done during school year. Are you doing work now? Are you using those subs now while school's in session, other places, or is it?
To be honest, we are at some locations. That work is wrapping up, but so much of the work that is funded through these federal programs, which I've never seen in my career so much money, and I'm sure you haven't from a school standpoint, it's going to start bottlenecking in the summer. I mean, lead times are very long in certain pieces of equipment. The answer to your question is we have resources locked into the question over here and commitments to get the work done that we're comfortable with, that we can facilitate. And
so you mentioned that the 30-day hold, or if you get an approval out of here soon enough, you can hold your contractors for your subs for the summer?
Yeah, correct. It's the way we arrange the bidding and pricing, and we probably could honestly hold it a little bit longer. The part that worries me is getting the equipment ordered to enable that summer period, which there's going to be enough disruption in that space that it would be an ideal time to be, pulling ceilings down, accessing ductwork. We really need to be almost disabling the system the way we have to update it. That's there, so it's really the optimal time to do it. But that, to me, is the biggest sense of urgency, is getting approval to place an order on equipment. The design is completely done. On a lesser degree, it's the pricing, but I think, so that, I guess that answers your question.
Thank you. Small set.
Any other questions for Jim?
well, Jim, how long did it take you to drive here?
About 2.5 hours.
Jim, what's your favorite color?
My son asked me that the other night. But no, I appreciate, always nice to visit, and I haven't had a chance with COVID to, I don't think, see David in a while, so.
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe sticking around till after the
Absolutely.
agenda item, just in case any more questions pop up.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, so next on the agenda, is there any adjustments to the agenda? Seeing none, so the next item is what we just discussed. To see what action the board wishes to take regarding the approval of a resolution entitled, Resolution to Authorize $220,000 Lease Purchase Agreement with Androscoggin Savings Bank to fund portion of costs of contracts with Honeywell for air quality and ventilation equipment and improvements to Crescent Park School be approved in form presented to this meeting. Resolution to authorize $220,000 lease purchase agreement with Androscoggin Savings Bank to fund portion of costs to contract with Honeywell for air quality and ventilation equipment and improvements to Crescent Park School.
Stephanie Herbeck was going to recite the next portion of this by memory. So basically what this does is it allows the district to borrow the difference that Jim talked about between what we had budgeted and what the actual cost of the project is. I'm optimistic that when we do meet with the finance committee, we'll be able to develop a plan where this will be a short-term borrow, and hopefully we'll be able to be in a position of only paying interest payments on that and be able to get the capital amount paid off prior to it becoming due. So that's the goal. That's what we'll hopefully be working on with that. And if that's the case, we'll be coming back to you, obviously, full board for approval of that and to make sure you're aware of what's going on. The difference here would be up to $220,000. It's going to be 5.25%, up to 5.25%. I think the agenda had that blank. I think I mentioned in my report that that had come in since then, but 5.25, not more than 5.25 payable in 2 non-consecutive annual interest-only installments followed by 8 consecutive equal annual installments of principal and interest. And I'm hopeful, like I said, that we will get to that point. So, the rest of it, you really don't need, I mean, obviously, hopefully you've read through it, but you don't need to read it as part of the motion. Happy to answer any questions.
I have one more question.
If we can, before we get into discussion, if we can get a motion on the table, just to move as read or something.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented.
Okay, thank you. And second? Second, perfect. Okay, now
I
go
got a
ahead.
question for the gentleman. Is there anything that your engineer recommended to make it the best project possible that's not being done in the scope of work that you envision?
Not that I'm aware of. We made some changes that I think enhanced it, like the way we're zoning and controlling it will be a good system. There was some options we looked at in the single-story section, but there was less square footage we're covering there, and I think the solution there would have been more pricey. So I think the recommendation we had was based on really the right solution and not looking to, it's always balancing first cost, but I think for a life cycle cost basis, this is the best solution.
The comment I make is you gotta get it right you gotta get it right when you're in doing the work, and everyone understands that concept. So it sounds like we're doing the proper thing,
Yes.
given the situation.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And one of the things that this project probably would allow you to do would be if you ever got to the point that you wanted to air condition that last wing would probably be a simpler design, but it would be more costly. We would not have been able to do that within the cost that we had available to us through the ESSA grant. And if we just did that end, we couldn't have done the other end. So that's some of the things that they looked at when they did the engineering study. I also want to thank Tanya too. Tanya tagged along during that whole process to be sure that she understood what was happening too as far as the bid goes.
And just to clarify, so if we don't approve this and we don't move forward with the project, those funds probably get lost essentially because there's not much else we can apply for at this point.
It would be very difficult to come up with other projects that we'd be able to apply for and get approved within the time frame because it has to go through the state and so on. So, and this is a sensible project that I think would benefit the district in the long run.
Any other discussion on this? All right, seeing none, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Deb.
Jim.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
All right, number 4.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
I just want to say that we talked about having Jim join us by Zoom, and he really felt it was important for him to come and introduce himself in person to you. So glad he made it.
All right, number 4, to see what action the board wishes to take regarding the approval of the superintendent's nomination of a kindergarten teacher for Woodstock Elementary School to a first probationary teaching contract for the 2022-2023. The motion?
Make a motion to approve?
Second? Marcy? All right.
So Wendy Coffin was giving me a hard time. I had so much paper in front of me, and she's right. So let me just dig for a minute. We had, you might recall, at the beginning of the school year, we had some positions that we were not able to fill because we didn't have any candidates who had been properly certified. So at that time, we were very fortunate that we had Samantha Grosso, who came in and substituted for us long-term at the Woodstock Elementary School, and also Mackenzie Richard, who filled in for a fairly late position that we had to fill for elementary music. And both of those people have done an outstanding job. They have both received emergency certifications from the state, so they are eligible to be hired for the balance of the year. We would make it retroactive to the beginning of the year since they've been in that position all year long anyway. And they both come very highly recommended by Ms. Wilkie at the Woodstock School, and both Ms. Wilkie and Ms. Arsenal for the music position at the elementary level. So, somewhere in here, I actually do have paperwork that goes with that, but lesson learned next time, Wendy. All right, I will listen to you. Here it is right in front of me. So I'm gonna just pass these out, give you a quick minute to look at them, see if you have any questions. But like I said, they've both been filling in the position, and they've both done a great job. I had a chance to visit with both of them on numerous occasions this beginning of the year, and just, can attest to the fact that they enjoy what they're doing, and they're doing a very good job with it. So both applications are included in those packets. So the first one, I guess, the one that we're considering right now is Samantha Grosso at Woodstock Kindergarten. I would need to get these packets back when you're done with them.
Any discussion on the kindergarten teacher for Woodstock, which is again Samantha Grosso?
And am I reading this correctly, that she does not have a bachelor's degree at this point?
That is correct, yes, sorry.
And that's,
She's still able to get an emergency certification. Yeah.
thank you.
Welcome, thank you. I think that's correct, Tanya, is that right? Or Jess, that is, does she have?
Yeah, she is currently in a program.
She's finishing up, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. These seem to end in April.
They do, but they're eligible for a continuation of that.
After that?
So,
Okay.
yeah, we checked into that. They contacted them, and Robin has given them the information you need to get in order to make sure they can continue.
Okay.
If for some reason they didn't, then they would not, they could serve as a long-term sub for the balance of the year because it would be less than 60 days. So there won't be any disruption to the kids.
Sorry. So am I reading it correctly that Mackenzie also has not finished a bachelor's?
She's in the same position of getting an emergency certification, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is what we're running into across the state.
Yeah.
The position's been posted
Yes,
for
the position's been posted since the beginning of the summer.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's an important note to make in terms of our hiring pool.
Right. It's a good point. And it's, I just had a meeting recently with Western Maine superintendents, and
Same.
there's a lot of places that have unfilled positions, so we're actually in better shape than some.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Alright, and number 5, to see what action the board wishes to take regarding approval of the superintendent's nomination of a K-5 music teacher through her first probationary contract for 2022-23 school year.
And that is Mackenzie, that we just discussed.
Motion to approve the Sandy Richard.
Thank you. Second? Marcy? Any discussion?
Had a fifth grader last year who loved Mrs. Richard.
She's great. And she is also, she has an emergency certification for elementary, and she's put in for an emergency certification for music, and been told, I believe, that she will get that, so she's going to have both.
In the same boat as continuing on with the bachelor's?
Yep, we're still in that same program, and these will be retroactive to the beginning of the school year because they've been doing the job.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
And I think if anything, both of these people are now convinced that this is what they want to do with their careers. So it's great, it's win-win.
And if we could, we'll collect these back, please. Want to pass them down? All right, number 6. See what action the board wishes to take regarding the appointment of a K-5 math curriculum leader for fiscal year '23.
Motion to approve?
And we're recommending Tracy, oh, good, so, need a second.
Yeah, second. David?
And so recommending Tracy Moran. Some of you know Tracy. Tracy's the 5th grade teacher at the Woodstock School. Tracy had been with us, and then she went to SAT 17, came back and joined us again last year and liked it so much she's building a house directly across the street from the school. So yes, and she has a strong background in math, so she's a perfect candidate for this. So we're fortunate to get her. It's a $550 a year stipend. So it'll help with the commuting costs.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. Number 7, to see what action the board wishes to take with regard to awarding the bid for snow plowing for 2022-23. And the facilities committee has a recommendation.
The Facilities Policy and Personnel Committee recommend approval of the bid for snow plowing for 2022-2023.
And as you saw in your packet, prices have gone up a little bit on some of the hourly rates, but that's to be expected between the cost of fuel and labor. But we only had one bid, and that's been the case for a number of years now. Cross is the only bidder on this. They've done a good job for us, very dependable. And I think their rates have been fairly modest considering, and only slight increases compared. The sheet that you have shows what we are paying this year with the bid, what last year with the bid is, the 21-22 versus the 22-23. And you'll see that some of them are, $5 or $10 an hour more. But we went a couple of years without any increases at all. So.
Any discussion on that? That does not require a second, because the facilities committee recommends it. So, any discussion? All in favor? You. Number 8, to see what action the board wishes to take regarding wages for substitute custodians, substitute food service workers, and substitute secretaries.
So Maine's minimum wage will change on January 1st, 2023. And in order to stay in compliance with that, we have to increase the minimum wage. Minimum wage would go to $12.75 an hour. So that would impact folks who are substitute custodians, food service, and secretaries. So that's the only change at this point. However, we will be also bringing this back to the Policy, Personnel, and Facilities Committee to look at some of the other substitute positions that we have in place. We currently have substitute wages beyond what you're seeing here. Substitute school bus drivers are at $14 an hour right now. Substitute teachers are at $100 per day, and that's a 7-hour day, so it's $14.29 an hour, or $125 a day if they have a valid Maine teaching certificate, which makes it $17.86. And then, obviously, it all trickles up. So if you are increasing the minimum wage, then you have other issues that follow all the way up the scale. But we did want to get this in tonight because this will be effective as of January 1st. And by law, we're of course to comply with that. We'll probably be coming back to you with some other recommendations or discussions down the road on some of the other positions.
Yeah, that finance committee looks at this almost every year, so I wouldn't be surprised if there were some changes. So
I'm sorry, I said so. It would be negotiations.
Yeah.
Finance, right? Sorry.
So essentially, you're looking for a motion to raise the minimum to the minimum wage.
Correct,
effective
just make
January
the
1st.
adjustment to the $12.75 mandatory minimum wage effective January 1.
Yeah, 13 maybe, right? It is 12.
13, sorry.
Yeah. Does somebody want to make that motion?
Make a motion to increase the wages for substitute custodians, substitute food service workers, and substitute secretaries.
All right.
And I misspoke, it was 30, it will be $13.80, it is $12.70.
Okay. And discussion? David?
I'm in the, I feel that we ought to have a minimum wage of $15 per hour for any substitute positions under this proposal. And I think where we've had such a good increase in other pay for other teachers and during the years, I think that people on the bottom should get more than what the minimum wage should be, so I will vote this time.
If I could make a suggestion, this would be getting you to the mandatory piece. If you wanted, I think the group, when they're looking at it, the Finance Negotiations Committee, could take your concerns under consideration and maybe come back with that, come back with a different recommendation, if they choose to, but.
I appreciate that.
Totally up to you.
This is not part of collective bargaining agreements.
No, not the substitute pieces. Although it does obviously impact, how it impacts the lower part of it, right? Yes, you're right.
I think the minimum wage should be $15 an hour for all people under this tier.
Any further discussion? Like I said, the Finance Committee does look at this each year, so this is more to stay in line with the law, and then as a Finance Committee, we can certainly look at that, and we have tried the last couple of years to up those. Unfortunately, the minimum wage is increasing sometimes faster than what we're increasing, so we can look at trying to do a better job.
Approximate number of individuals affected by this action pending? Just a rough guess.
20 to 30 maybe. That'd be high, I think.
Any further discussion? All in favor? And opposed?
Scott and David were opposed.
12 to 2. All right, thank you. Number 9, see what action regarding the approval of advertising for an additional special education teacher position due to an increased caseload of students requiring services at the Telstar complex. Thank you.
What motion on the table?
Yeah, would somebody like to move as read and then we'll discuss?
Motion to approve is read.
So I received this request from Jeannie Cordero, who's our special ed director, and since the beginning of the school year, we've seen an increase in the number of students coming to the district who require special education services. I want to give Jeannie kudos for doing everything within her power to shuffle things around and rearrange. She hears it a lot from the superintendent, like before we get to this point, what can we do using our existing resources, and she's done a lot. So I have looked at the numbers that she's working with right now, and as you saw in the memo that I sent out earlier, there's regulations that we have to meet for special ed, and we want to do the best we can to make sure we're providing these kids with the education that they need to have in order to be successful. So we're at the point right now where we do feel as though we need to be looking at adding another caseworker to the Telstar complex. We will be taking some steps with some of the existing ed tech positions as they become open to look at the possibility of perhaps moving them from an Ed Tech 3 to an Ed Tech 1, really just redefining or re-examining how we're using those people, and if we can save a little bit of money by doing some of those things to help make up the difference, we will. You do have a line item in your special ed budget that's a contingency that allows you to, you basically put some money aside in case you need something like this. I'm not suggesting you tap that yet, because we may have differences in wages from people that have come on board this year versus people who have left. This may balance out by the end of the year. If it doesn't, and if we're in a position of having to tap the contingency fund to fund the position, we can do that at the end of the school year when we have a better idea of what the cost centers look like. But it might be possible that you're able to cover this additional position within the special education cost center or within that 5% vote that you take that allows you to shuffle money between cost centers. Bottom line is that there's enough issues here that in order for us to make sure that we're providing the correct services as the kids need and as is required by law, that we have enough effective personnel to be able to do that. We do have the fortunate ability to say that there are people internally who potentially can apply for some of these positions that would enable us to fill them. Not to say that they would be automatic, but we know we won't be in a position of potentially having openings that we can't find qualified candidates for, so that's helpful. Jeannie's here tonight. I think most of you know her, but wave, Jeannie, just in case you don't. No, Jeannie, wave. No. She's here, and I would, if it's okay with you, Danny, like to just ask her if there's anything she wants to add.
I guess I just wanted to add that the state cap for our special education case manager is 35. We're currently at 32. We're looking at 34 probably by the next week and a half. So that's really, like David said, I've gone through many different solutions, brainstorming, I shuffled people around already. And we just feel as though at this point we need another person to meet these students' needs. So we'd like to do it sooner than later.
Jeannie's done an outstanding job since coming into this role, and she really has turned over every rock and tried to make sure that she uses every resource available before she comes and asks for something like this. So I would definitely support this.
All right, and so Stephanie, I guess, would you amend the motion to just say that? Because I'm rereading it, it doesn't actually say to approve, is that, if that's what you'd like to do?
Make a motion to approve advertising for an additional special education teacher position due to an increased caseload of students at Towson.
All right, thank you. And Marcia, you still good with the second on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? Maggie?
I would like to just also encourage us as a board, when you look at a caseload of 35 students, that is a lot of students to be taken care of for one person. I think that I would prefer that we're not the school board that says, well, legally we have to have this number. I would prefer that we're looking at the quality of care and service that we're giving our students and say we can do better than the state requirement. And so I think it is really important that we approve this motion tonight, and I think it's also really important that we revisit those ratios to make them more manageable for our faculty that are working with that population of students.
Yeah, and Maggie, if I could too, that's a really good point. And at the end of the year, when we're building the budget for next year, what's happened really in the past couple of summers is we've had a lot of students that have moved into the district that have required special education services that we didn't have at the end of the year. So when we build the budget for the special ed cost center based on the needs of the students. And that's why we have that contingency in there, so in the event that we do need to add something, you have the ability to do that. But Jeannie's got her hand up back here too. Is that okay, Dan?
Yep.
Well, I just want to add, since the development of our budget for this fiscal year, we've had 19 special ed students move into the district with current IEPs. So that does not include any of the students that have been referred, as well since budget development. So, yeah, we've had a lot of students.
We're required, and we take it very, very seriously that we want to build our special ed cost center around the needs of the kids. So your point's well taken, and you probably will see an uptick in that cost center going into FY '24.
I also just wanted to add this, sorry, I did, like, if we think about our classroom teachers, none of them have 35 students in their
Right.
classroom at a time, and I think that's just a really important thing to keep in mind.
The other piece too, just to add too, is just so people are aware. Oftentimes, the teacher may have 1, 2, or more ed techs working with them to help cover some of those services as well. Ideally, you want to have as many classroom teachers as you can, special ed teachers in there to provide that service too.
Done.
Approximate number of K to 12 students, total students,
Total students in the district, 700, roughly 650 to 700.
and that 102 in your memo is part of that 700.
Correct, yeah, and across the state, the average rate is usually around 15% for a school system, unless that's changed, Jeannie, that's still, I think, the calculation that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So on average, so on average, we're probably right about where we would expect to be, but we've had a big influx of special ed kids. So just to kind of go with that, it's a good point, Scott. A couple of years ago, we had some concerns at the public budget meeting that it looked like we weren't spending as much on special education as we had been the previous year. And the reason for that was we had a big decline in the number of special education students that year. We had a group that graduated, we didn't have as many coming in. So whenever we build the budget, we build it around the fact that we want to provide the services that we have to provide, we want to provide to support those kids.
The acronym IEP, that's Individual Education Program?
Yes, individual education plan, right, and it really defines what the services are that each of the students receives.
The teacher mentioned that, the right word, teacher, or director?
Director, yeah, but it's okay.
The director mentioned coming in from the other districts. They always Maine, or is that a reciprocity?
It's a variety. You could have kids who move here from out of state, you could have kids who move here from
I guess my question is, are out-of-state IEPs recognized by, is reciprocal?
They are until they're reviewed, and once they're reviewed, then they become something that we generate here. But when a student arrives in our district, we have to provide them with the services as outlined in their current IEP until another one is developed.
All right, thank you.
Can I just make one more point? Sorry. I think that we all are very aware of the burnout rate of our teachers, much less our special ed teachers, and so I think that to make sure that we're taking care of the teachers that we already have, we need to make sure that we're supplementing this in a way that supports the whole program, so that we don't lose anybody.
Sure. And I will tell you that if it looks like we need to continue to bolster these numbers, you'll probably be hearing from us as well. So we won't be bashful.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you. All right, number 10, see what action the board wishes to take regarding entering into an executive session to discuss employment of employees pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A. And just to elaborate on that, it's my understanding from the Superintendent Search Committee that the intent of this executive session is to interview one candidate for the superintendent position, and that depending on what transpires in the executive session, there could be an action after the executive session. So I would encourage anybody who wants to stick around for that to do that. But I will remind folks that we will be clearing the room for the executive session should it be approved.
And you won't be announcing it.
Right, yes, and there won't be no appointment of a superintendent, but there could be an action item after the executive session, so I just want to make that publicly clear. And I also like to publicly restate that once we enter into executive session, Stephanie and Aaron will be taking over, and I will be departing just to avoid appearance of a conflict of interest that I stated at an earlier meeting, so just so that can go on public record. So at this time, I would like somebody to make a motion to enter into executive session.
Motion to approve entering into executive session.
Thank you. And any discussion on entering into executive session?
We get a quick break before we...
We will, yeah, we'll probably take a 5-minute break and give everybody a chance to figure out. Cheryl, will you second that?
Yeah.
Any discussion on that? All in favor? I'll take that.